Animals love freedom just as much as we do. From animals that were seeing the outside world for the first time to the ones who had to be rescued from horrifying conditions, this video will make you emotional. Today, we will be going through the clips where animals were finally allowed to be free in the wild in their actual homes. If you haven't packed a tissue box, go ahead and place it next to you, because this video is going to be a real tearjerker. Hang on tight as we take you on this roller coaster and go through some of the most amazing animal clips that will make you bawl. Number 1. Chimpanzees released after medical experiments. This bunch of poor chimpanzees were part of an experimental project. When they were finally exposed to a wild environment, they couldn't believe their eyes. First, they couldn't understand what was going on. But when they slowly explored, they realized that they were finally free. The group was quite surprised to find sunlight, which is a real testament to how these chimpanzees were living before. The fresh grass, the bright sunlight, and the open area allowed them to breathe freely, and you can see that on their faces. 2 of them even hug each other for finally being out. Number 2. Chimpanzee freed into the jungle. This young chimpanzee nearly died while being rescued. It was given another chance to live, and Jane Goodall and her team decided to add on to that happiness. They freed the chimpanzee into the jungle. The poor animal was so happy that it hugged its rescuers before leaving. But its best reaction came when it sat on the box for a few seconds as if it couldn't believe it was finally out in the open. The animal gave the biggest hug to Goodall and then ran into the woods to live its life to the fullest. Number 3. A group of penguins sent to the sea. These penguins were rescued and treated by the Mundo Marino Foundation before being sent to the sea. The 12 penguins were brought in a big cage to the beach. What they thought was going to be a trip actually turned out to be a freedom call. As soon as the door opened, they couldn't believe their eyes. They headed straight to the ocean as if the sea was calling out to them. The bounce in their little steps shows how eager they are to get back to their homes. They go down into the ocean and let the cool waves surround them, happy to be finally home. Number 4. Snakes, back in the wild. This will seem like a pretty scary scene, but this rescuer might have just saved the lives of hundreds of snakes. The caretaker releases the bag onto the ground, and out comes a huge nest of snakes. They just want to go home. The snakes slither away from the man the moment they touch the ground and travel out into the field. The man helps them out as they go out and explore their new homes. Number 5. Python freed into the water. This is a South African python that was rescued and is being freed into the wild. Away from humans, this python will surely live a better life. The only problem was that the huge python simply didn't want to let go of the comfort that the caretaker provided. The snake was probably scared of where the man was taking it. The python keeps tangling itself onto the arm of the caretaker until he finally gives the snake a taste of the water. When it senses the water, it quickly slithers away and is elated to be back home. Number 6. Eagle tastes the sweet air. This eagle looks pretty battered, as if it had suffered an injury. Luckily, this man was there to save it from the mess. He put the eagle in a huge cage and brought it out to the highest cliff near him so the bird could taste the sweet air. When it got out of the cage, it spread out its massive wings and took flight. What a beautiful sight. Number 7. Rhinoceros runs to its home. This gigantic rhinoceros was rescued by this group of people, and they had brought a huge truck to transport it back home. But the animal was not very happy. You can see the whole truck shaking because of the angry rhino trying to find a way out. Eventually, the rescuers propped the gate open, and the rhino came rushing out of the truck. It could have easily brought down the truck and the people, but the sweet smell of its home kept its head focused in the opposite direction. It couldn't wait to get back into the forest. Number 8. Possum out in the wild. This poor possum couldn't believe its eyes when the gate to its kennel opened. Thanks to the rescuer, the wildest dreams of this possum came to life. It stood there at the gate for a few seconds. But when the realization finally dawned on the animal that it was all real, it sprinted and ran up the first tree it could find. You can see the grateful animal as it looks back at its rescuer from up high on the trunk. Number 9. Leopard saved and freed. This leopard was put through an operation to save its life. After the successful surgery, the leopard was taken out in the wild so that it could live its life to the fullest. The leopard was very excited to get back to its home. When the gate was slid open, it leapt out of the cage and ran as fast as those legs could take it. Number 10. Penguin sent to the ocean after its rescue. This penguin had come to the caretaker starved, weak, and unable to move. The facility took it in and nursed it back to health until it could walk and eat properly. The penguin was finally in good shape, and it was time to go back home. So she brought the cage to the shore. The penguin was quite hesitant at first, even when the sea was right in front of it. So the caretaker decided to help it out. She led the way, and the penguin trailed behind with small steps. It took a first dip in the ocean, but was still quite unsure of what to do. The woman slowly made her way further with the penguin waddling behind until the waves hit the animal. When the first few waves engulfed the penguin, it knew where it belonged. The penguin then allowed the waves to take it farther as the caretaker bid her farewell to the penguin. Number 11. Gator Set free. This alligator is quite different from the others of its kind. It had an undeveloped jaw and was not safe out in the wild. Plus, it was starved and weak when found by the caretakers. So the woman rescued it and named it Jawline. When the gator was finally energetic enough, it was put into a safe facility where she could explore her environment freely. You can see the hint of excitement in its eyes as it dips into the water and goes around the land, scouting its new home. Number 12. Lions freed into the jungle. This man had been a real help to a couple of lions. They were his friends for months, but now it was time for the lions to be a part of the jungle. So he took them out on the safari and stopped at the best location he could find. He opened the gate, and the lions came rushing out. One of them didn't even stop to bid farewell because it was so excited to be back in nature. The other one was quite shocked and even gave a confused look to its friend, probably thinking whether it would meet him again. Number 13. Bear cubs. Sent back to the forest, these 3 bear cubs were abandoned by their mother. When they were found by these caretakers, they were quite weak. Once they were in good shape, the people brought them out in cages. One by one, they got out, scared and unsure of their surroundings. They looked at each other in the same hesitant way. But these brave cubs took their first steps into the wild and were sure that this was their home. Number 14. Chained tiger given freedom. This tiger had been chained all its life. It was used for entertainment purposes in the city and has never set foot in the grass. But that's about to change, thanks to these good people. The tiger was transported to the wild in a cage. It was slowly given the time to explore its new home. It took its time to gather a sense of its surroundings. But when it did, the tiger was roaming all over the place. From trying to climb up on trees to sniffing the fresh-cut grass, the tiger was happy to be finally free. Number 15. Circus Tigers freed. After 15 years. This couple of tigers had been in the circus doing tricks for as long as they could remember. But when the circus went out of business, the tigers were put on a train and abandoned. They were fed once a week by the owner, But it obviously wasn't enough. After being away from the wild for more than 15 years, they were finally transported to their new home by some good people. The tigers were quite hesitant to even step on the grass because they had only seen it but never stepped on it. The caretakers tried to lure them away with food, and that worked for one of the tigers. The other one was shaking and trembling but couldn't step outside the cage out of fear. When it finally did, it loved the feeling of the grass underneath its feet. They both raced around the grass and then finally came to hug each other, finally happy and relaxed. Number 16. Bearcats' first steps on grass. This duo of bearcats, also known as binturong, are rare animals. They were introduced to a safe facility so the cubs could take their first steps in the grass. When the door slid open, the cubs instantly got out in a hurry. Their mother kept a watchful eye behind them as they explored their surroundings happily. The mama bearcat herself is very uncertain but eager to step on the trunk and the grass. They will live a safe life out here. Number 17. Lions saved from the circus. The two lions, Tarzan and Tanya, were transported on a truck to the wild. They were quite hesitant to walk out of the cage, but when they finally took their first steps on the grass, they knew they were finally at the right place. The calm look in their eyes is enough to tell you how relaxed they feel in their new home. The two lions hug each other out of happiness and sit down on the grass to celebrate their freedom. Number 18. Turtles released in the ocean. This group of turtles had no clue that their next trip would bring them back home. The kind people took the turtles out on a ship and used a slide to help them get back into the ocean. Boy, doesn't it look like the best way to enter their new life? At least the turtles seemed to think so. Once they dipped into the ocean, they swam hastily and enjoyed the cool blue waters hitting their bodies. Number 19. Giraffes sent to the jungle. The giraffes were quite nervous to be out in the jungle with the open plains spread out wide before them. When the gate to the truck opened, they were quite hesitant. One of the braver ones took the first step on the land and didn't look back. The others followed its trail, and they all hastily went back into the forest to rush back home. Number 20. Circus lions freed. These circus lions went through a lot being mistreated all their life, but finally, they will be out in the wild. Their rescuers had to go through locals fighting against them to not take the lions from the circus. But the caretakers finally came out on top and helped the poor animals. They nursed them back to health. When they got out of the captivity and onto the grass for the first time, the lions couldn't help but embrace each other. Number 21. Horses race to freedom. In this epic footage, a herd of horses were released from a truck into an open landscape. They immediately rushed out of the closed truck and ran as fast as their legs could take them. They were so happy that they raced all the way to the edge of the cliff, sprinting as fast as they could. Number 22. Bald eagle soars, high after the release. This bald eagle was in the rehabilitation center for months. Now it was time to release it into the wild so that it could carry on with its life to the fullest. The eagle was blindfolded and brought to the wild. As soon as the strip was removed from its eyes, it couldn't help but go in shock. It sat on the box for a good few minutes, trying to inhale the fresh air and digest its surroundings. It gave one grateful glance to its rescuers and then flew high into the sky. It will not be coming back down for a while. Number 23. Vulture confused in the wild. This vulture had probably not seen the wild for a long time, and this footage is enough proof of it. When the giant bird was released in the huge open space, the vulture had no clue what to do. It spread out its wings, but didn't know how to fly. The poor bird gave many confused looks to its rescuers, who hopefully will help it take flight. Number 24. The hesitant elephants. This mother-daughter duo of elephants have been confined in a concrete pit for a long, long time. The rescuers brought the two elephants into a sanctuary, and it was the slowest exit ever. They were quite hesitant to go out into the open space. It took them 4 days to finally go outside. But when they did, you could see the happiness all over. Number 25. Circus Dolphins. Sent to the sea. These two dolphins were being used for entertainment purposes in the country. They had never been out in the wild, but the rescuers thought that it was time for them to swim freely in the ocean. So, they put them into rehabilitation first. When they were ready, they were taken to the sea so they could explore their new home. The dolphins took no time getting out of the cage. You can almost hear the sigh of relief as the two dolphins go out and breathe into the open sea for the first time. One of them even yaps in excitement after gaining its deserved freedom. Number 26. The Nervous Panther. This Florida panther is named Logan and is an endangered species. He was quite hesitant to be out in the open when the gate of its cage popped open. It looked at the open space with uncertain eyes and couldn't believe the prospect of the humongous field before him. He had to be pushed by his caretakers to step out of the cage, but when it did, it sprinted from one place to another in extreme joy. How cute is that? Number 27. Bear cubs set free. This orphaned bear cub found itself in a facility. It was found in a very bad shape, as if it was starved for months. This is when the rescuers came to its aid, helping it slowly gain its health back. Finally, the day came for its freedom, and the bear cub did not have an initial great liking for its surroundings. It was so hesitant to go out in the forest that the caretakers had to push it to run multiple times. Then the trick finally worked, and the bear couldn't wait to explore its new home. Number 28. Monkeys saved from traffickers. This huge group of monkeys had the poor fortune of being captured by wildlife traffickers, but now it was time for them to live away from captivity. The good men in the wildlife department helped rescue the monkeys and brought them out to a new habitat so they could start a new life. The eager monkeys rush out of the cage at the first sight of their new home. They were bouncing here and there excitedly within seconds. Number 29. The excited raccoon. This raccoon was brought out into the wild by some kind-hearted people. As soon as the gate opened, there was no hesitation from the animal to escape the captivity. It got out hastily and ran straight into the first tree it found. It went up high on the tall trunk and smelled the fresh air of freedom in peace. Number 30. A huge flock of birds flying away. This truck is about to release hundreds of birds into the open sky, and it will be a sight to remember. The gates opened, and out came the huge flock of birds, one after another, eager to spread out their wings. The excited birds trailed after each other, rolled out their wings, and soared out in the blue sky. They were ready to enjoy their freedom to the fullest. Number 31. Deers taken to the wild. A group of safari workers had come across a couple of deers and rescued them. When the time came, they were taken out in the wild so they could continue on with their lives. The crate opened, and out came the deers bouncing. They darted at full speed when they saw the open field before them, stepping on the grass, experiencing the bright sunlight and the smell of the air. All of it was enough to keep these deers dancing with little steps. Number 32. Siberian Tigers race to the jungle. 4 Siberian tigers were released in the wild by these kind safari men. They opened the gates of the crates one by one, so the tigers could take their time to explore their new homes. But these eager tigers didn't need any time. They were happy to be back. They roared excitedly as they sprung into action and raced towards the jungle. The huge forest was enough to bring happiness to these tigers. Number 33. Hippos run to the lake. This crate held 3 hippos that were put in a rehabilitation center until they were healthy enough to be back in the wild, and it is now time for them to go free. The men opened the crates, and 2 healthy hippos came out. The cub took its time to go out in the open, but when it saw its parents, it didn't think twice. It ran at full speed after them, and they were all united in the lake as one happy family. Number 34. Sea lions find a new home. A group of compassionate caretakers brought the sea lions on an exciting trip. They had no clue what they were about to discover was their new home. When the truck unloaded the sea lions, they were nervous at first. But when they touched the sand, they bounced happily and roamed on the shore. If this was their reaction on the land, they would surely have a fun time exploring the ocean. Number 35. Battered hens. Saved from the barn. These hens had the bad luck of growing up in a barn, but the safari workers came to their rescue. They are about to have a very different life soon. When the boxes were brought out in the field, the hens looked uncertain and peeked out of the peepholes to figure out where they were. A bunch of them were not even sure if they should step on the grass. But as soon as their feet touched the land, they were out of sight and darting at full speed, just as a normal hen should. That's all on the freedom clips that will make anyone cry their eyes out. All of these animals had a story that made their first steps in the wild even more magical. Which one was your favorite? Let us know in the comments. While you are at it, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. If you like this video, you will surely like the next uploads we will be bringing to your feed. Until next time, have a great day and thanks for watching.